Yo, what's up, guys? Today I have someone really, really, really special. I have someone called Jordan, and he has an amazing YouTube channel on improving yourself spiritually, but in a very practical way. So many people, approach this topic of spirituality in a very abstract, woo-woo way, and that's what's most prevalent in YouTube industry, right? But Jordan is like one of the very few people who has kind of like come to like the same conclusion or the outcome, but through like his life, like using his life as a medium. And he has an amazing YouTube channel and his newsletter too. You can subscribe it. I read all his newsletter personally, so I'm subscribed to it. It'll be in the comments and the description below. But Jordan, I'm first for really thank you for like accepting this. I really appreciate it. Uh, but you have been someone that has roamed the entire world quite literally, like almost
Hmm.
like a gypsy kind of
Yeah,
way, no?
yeah, yeah.
So I have a question about that, and it's like a very dumb question, okay? Like, isn't it expensive, or like how does it work?
All right. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. First of all, thank you, Prem, for the great introduction and for inviting me on. It's nice to
Yeah,
speak with you today. Is traveling the world expensive? Yes, and no. Things are relative, right? So when I began, this is 20 years ago now.
damn,
Um, Yeah, it was actually a different world and things were a lot cheaper. So the old kind of backpackers myths of a $3 hotel room in many countries of the world really existed, right? It was kind of the very last end of the great old backpacker or hippie days before cell phones came out and so on.
mm,
So yeah, I my first travels were super cheap, and I would take your usual summer holiday job, like back home in England, and work night shifts and work late, and put 90% of what I saved up into a bank account. And then when I would go to Southeast Asia was like one of my first stops, and then later Latin America. I spent 2, 3 years just in
damn.
South America alone. Yeah, I'd found ways to make the money stretch. Yeah, and
So,
in those days, you
go.
could. Yeah, I think you still can, but in those days, you really, really could.
But, I have a friend, right? And he recently went to like a travel like you. But on like the last day or the last 2 days before, his flight got rescheduled because he booked one of the like low quality aeroplanes. And like the
Yeah.
last 2 days, he was just stressed. And once he like reached home, he was like, neither did I enjoy the trip, nor did I like I had like this entire stress about the aeroplane, and I still made it home. And he said, "Oh, I wish that I kind of like almost like surrender to the moment and be present almost." Do you feel
Hmm.
that's like an important quality, at least in like traveling and stuff like that?
It's
Like to
it's
like
the it's the most fundamental quality. If you're not able to surrender to your terrible circumstances, you've got no hope of being on the road for a significant amount of time, and you've got no hope of um, absorbing the good things that it's there to teach you. Yeah, and travel is, I mean, again, my expectations coming into long-term travel were this is going to be painful. You're going to get diseases in a lot of different places. You're going to
yeah.
spend, 18. I spent 30 hours in a baking hot bus with no windows, and all the
No.
people on the bus put packages down the aisle, so you couldn't get off your seat and walk down the aisle. It was a mountain of people's kind of TVs and stuff like that they were transporting. It's like if you're not willing to sit on an odd 24-hour bus drive like that and suffer, then you miss out on a lot of stuff. And yeah, you can travel in more luxurious circumstances. The older I get, the more I do that, right? And the more I want to.
Mm.
But say you miss your flight and you have to sleep, I don't know, under a metal table in an airport or something like that, or you end
Yeah.
up on one of these bus trips, that turns into a story. And you suffer it in the moment, but the thing that you get out of it is a story. Maybe this is something that has changed. Like, oh my God, I hate to be one of these people on a podcast. Yeah, in my day, well,
Yeah.
when I was doing this for the first time, there was no phone, so there was no kind of get out of jail free. There was no distraction. So whatever terrible feelings or however much fear, actually, like putting yourself out in edgy and comfort zone stretching situations was um a way to explore your own relationship to your own fear. And if
Mm.
you could do that, sit in fear and discomfort, you had a rite of passage where you got to experience those feelings within yourself and just see if you can take them on, which is, i.e., don't defend against them, don't wish they went away, don't, swear at everybody who's surrounding you,
Yeah.
or write really,
Yeah.
really crappy 1-star reviews or whatever app you're on. But it's just like, sit in those feelings and accept them and just be like, wow, this really sucks right now. But I tell you what, the next time I meet some people,
Mhm.
they're in for a good story, because I'm going to have to get this off my chest. And so my experience of traveling has been one of, let's put ourselves into unique and exhilarating situations, and then we've got a story to pass on. Yeah.
Do
So
you
so there's
feel
always something good that can come out of a moment.
would it then be accurate to say that traveling has almost changed the relationship with yourself to a certain extent? Like,
Completely.
yeah.
100%.
So,
100%.
like, how does that help? Because I don't travel much unless like I have like a purpose or something. Let's say I have to like come to Bucharest for the Zan thing. I'd be like, oh,
Yeah.
let me go. But I don't like traveling just for the sake of traveling personally. But I see
Yeah.
many people do that, and they say it's like a life-changing experience. Especially a lot of
Yeah.
women do that after like they reach a point. They're like, oh, I'm gonna like solo travel.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's what it depends, I think, on your conception of travel, but I see it very much as a rite of passage. And there are really, really, really worn grooves around the world where you can go from hostel to hostel and have a safe time, always meet friends
yeah,
from your home city or whatever it is. Guaranteed fun. So you can get on the tour circuit and have guaranteed fun, or you can get off of that circuit. And a lot of, you see the real travel, the hardcore travelers will be like,
yeah,
I don't want everything made for me. I don't want to hop from kind of Irish pub to Irish pub, whatever it is.
yeah.
I want to go out there into the land and into the culture, say yes to invitations that local people put out to me. If someone talks about a town down the road or a beach or a waterfall or a mountain or something, and I like the poetry of its name, and I woke up this
Mm.
morning just with a feeling like that place sounds really good, I want to go there, then you follow that impulse, and it takes you on a different
Oh,
on a different journey. So all of my early traveling was total travel without a purpose. If you want to describe purpose as being a rational thing, this is why I'm going traveling. Here are the things that I'm going to get out of it and put on my resume later on.
mm-hmm.
It was travel without a purpose, like rebel without a cause, travel without a
Yeah,
purpose. But actually within that, there is a very deep purpose to this kind of purposeless travel,
mm-hmm.
which not a lot of people are able to articulate. I wasn't
Yeah,
at the beginning, but it's a search for something numinous or sacred or holy or
yeah,
soulful. And people say the cliche, find yourself.
yeah,
I don't know where in the world you're going to find yourself. You're already
yeah,
there,
yeah,
right? But you discover how you interact and respond to various real world situations. And in
mm-hmm.
that, you test your character, and you get definition about what your character actually is. How can you deal with adversity? How much patience have you got? Can you suffer extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme loneliness, extreme, strange and maybe threatening locals? Can you keep a sense of center in all of that?
Yeah. So uh, it's very interesting for me because when I hear it from you, my initial reaction, I can feel it, is, oh, what if I'm like in like a village, middle of nowhere, I have nothing to eat, I don't know where to go, or something like that, right? And I also noticed that pattern of just like I wouldn't say negative thinking, is almost like your body automatically goes into like, I gotta like protect myself mode. Also happens in like many aspects of my life. And you used a very interesting word called surrender. But I
Mm-hmm.
personally do not understand what that exactly means, especially in like context like this or in a different context. Like
Yeah.
what does it mean to like surrender? What are you surrendering to? Because when you're surrendering, you're kind of like giving up, right? That's what it means. You're like giving up to like a higher power, almost like if China is
Okay.
surrendering to USA, right? That means that China is like giving its power to USA, right? Almost.
Right.
Or let USA control China is what I understand as surrender. But I see this
Yes.
word thrown around, but I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, then I think you're very wise to ask people, everyone who uses the word surrender, what do you actually mean by
Yeah,
that? Because it can
yeah,
mean a million things. I in travel, you can either surrender to external circumstances or internal ones, right? And what I most commonly mean when I say surrender is if there's a part of me that's rejecting a situation and not liking it, or there's a part of me that's trying to control some kind of outcome,
yeah,
then usually what that entails is on the inside of my mind, I'm disliking it, wishing it would change, or I'm judging something about the experience.
mm,
That happens on a mental level. Usually in my body, that that closure or that self-protection or that judgment is also mirrored by a something muscular. So a lot of people, when we're controlling life or judging life, there's something in the body that clamps up and says, no, I don't want this. And it hardens us. It hardens the body and it hardens the face. So you can see if someone is in a state of really not surrendering to the moment or to the circumstances, because
yeah,
they've got some hardness in the face and some tension, right?
yeah.
So let's say, I give you an example. Like on my first ever trip to Mexico, I took a boat from one kind of peninsula over to the mainland, but the boat arrived really late at night. And this was not a very intelligent thing on my part to do, but I didn't have more information. I, ar- I arrived in a really important city at about 10 or 11 p.m. at night. And I later found out it was very important for the cartels in that period. It was 2006.
Oh,
And I walked the streets at night being like, well, when I see the first hotel that has a vacancy sign, I'm going to go in there, what's your rate? Okay, one night and I'll get the bus out of here tomorrow. But I walked down the street and I ended up really in city avenues and there was no hotel. And this little guy came up to me out of nowhere and he's like, where are you going? Where you think you're going
damn.
at this time? Hey, you're not from around here, are you? And he was smaller, but even still, it was enough for me to start to have quivers on the inside, like my stomach, and just like adrenaline reactions and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm looking for a hotel. Yeah, I'm here for one night. I'm looking for a hotel. And he's like, do you mind if I walk around with you while you find your hotel? And I'm really like, no, I don't like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I kind of don't want it to
yeah.
happen. I want to protect
Yeah,
myself. But at the
yeah.
same time, I've got this really creeped out feeling of being in this city and there's no hotel all of a sudden. I was hoping that there'd be a hotel opposite the bus terminal, and my guide book, I'm not going to look at the guide book now at 11 o'clock at night. Everything's out of date anyway. I was in this very scary situation. And so surrender in that moment is like, okay, this man, he's actually smaller than me. Maybe he's actually here to help. Maybe he's not out to rob me. Maybe if I buy him a drink or some cigarettes or something, he could actually help me. Maybe he's on my side, right? And I just took. Sometimes if you get an intuition that you shouldn't trust something or someone, you kind of know. I think as animals, we're
Yeah.
really tuned into our impulses in a pretty good way. But I
Hmm.
had the sense that this guy wasn't in imminent danger. And he asked me I went into a shop and he asked me for something. I was like, sure, I'll buy you a drink, tin of beer or something. And I was like, okay, I'll buy you this $2 tin of beer, but walk with me until I find a hotel. Deal? Sure. And whatever my hating of the moment, my reaction was on the inside, I just kind of breathed and let it go. Okay, for the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm just going to trust this stranger that he's going to do something good for me. And I think at some point in the walk, other people approached us for a conversation, but this little guy was like, I'm here with my bro, that's it. We're going around the corner. And he said one or two words, and I actually felt a little safer in his presence. And then a hotel came, and I went into the hotel, and you know, ciao, buddy. Thanks for the walk and the talk. And I found somewhere to stay for the night. So, I mean, that's one example. But in other circumstances, there are people that are like, come eat with us, or we're going to go on a drive to this place. Do you want to come with us? And often, if it's in a new country and I haven't climatized and I don't know much of the language, the impulse is to say no, no, no. But I feel that sense of fear and I relax into it, and I'm like, how much of my no is just a knee-jerk reaction of me trying to stay safe? That's actually keeping me away from a deeper encounter with these people. And much of the time, like I say, I can trust my impulses. Much of the time, there's no real sense of danger. It's just me trying to control and make sure that I am in a good homeostasis, right? But
Yeah.
I end up saying yes, and even though I'm a little bit uncomfortable, different people, different customs. Okay, can I
Yeah.
relax and enjoy and share about myself? Boom. Actually, I realized that most people, especially if they don't leave their home country very much, are incredibly hospitable. And it's kind of the modern countries, like where I'm
Yeah.
from, where actually we're the most cynical and disconnected and believe that everyone is a serial killer, which
Yeah, definitely. So I want to ask a follow-up question, which is like, what do you do about like the cocktail of emotions that's like, running through the body? Let's say I'm becoming aware of the tensions in my body, right? Yeah. I have
yeah,
that in check. I have my mind in check. My logical thing is running in check. But what about my feelings,
yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that?
Well, if you are aware enough of your feelings in any moment, then you have access to all those feelings and the information that's in them, right? So you might just enjoy the ride of the feelings from a kind of embodied sense. Wow, this is what I'm feeling. It's kind of
Yeah.
poetic to be a person who is aware of their feelings. But what gets triggered and spiked within you is information. So if it's fear, you can feel that fear, and it's usually telling you what to be careful of. If you feel aroused, then wow, what if I can actually relax and enjoy this arousal, this adrenaline, this excitement?
Yeah.
Cool, my body's having this massive reaction, palpitations, I'm extremely aware, but this is aliveness. So if I relax my muscles and relax my defensiveness and allow myself to feel all the emotions and sensations that are moving around me, I'm really, really alive, and I can choose accordingly. If
So you're
I'm
not
if
actually, oh, I'm sorry, go on.
yeah, if I'm stuck and controlling and all my muscles are tense,
Yeah.
then I don't actually have a wider range of choice, because my only choice really is no, like reject life
Yeah.
and maintain the homeostasis. But if I open and feel all these things, the next thing that can happen is connection, actually. And if I feel exhilarated and someone's like, you want to race, you want to go to this place, sure, I'll take you on. And there can be an incredible connection out of that. Fear as well. I don't want to go, I'm afraid. You can tell someone what you feel. Okay, they slow down. What makes you afraid? What do you need? So feelings help you not only navigate what you might want or need or be open for in a particular time, they allow you to communicate and connect with another person, and they can slow down and treat you appropriately. So your feelings are your bridge to an actual connection with another person. If you're stuck in judgment and you're like, that looks boring to me,
Yeah.
why are you trying to make me do this thing, then there's no connection. You're not actually helping another person to help you. So
So,
yeah.
so you're not actually trying to like change the feeling or anything like that? Because I think that's what everyone is like searching in self-help, right? Let's say I'm feeling like afraid of something, like especially like if you're like approaching strangers to like talk to them and something like that, then you like
Yeah,
have that anxiety, right? And
yeah,
and the question is, okay, how do I like transform this anxiety to excitement, or how do I get rid of this anxiety, or how can I,
yeah.
kind of eliminate the, you know what I mean? That is the question, right? But you're like, nah, you're just not trying to like do anything with the emotion, but rather just feeling it in the body.
I don't believe in having an agenda from transforming a negative emotion into a positive one. I think that's a bit misguided. And I think that is, again, a protective mechanism of the mind trying to dictate for you your own experience.
Hmm.
So I think what's helpful is, first of all, to stop labeling certain feelings as positive and negative, and actually develop a palate, an acquired taste. When I was a
Hmm.
teenager, I hated wine and beer, but people would say, hang in there. One
Yeah.
day it's an acquired taste. One day you're actually going to enjoy this whole thing of life. I think
That's
it's the
me.
same
Yeah.
with feelings. Some feelings feel really awful to take in, and we spend our whole lives defending defending against them, but sometimes they're the most exquisite ones, like shame, for example. To feel shame in a very full way is spooky, humbling, a little bit erotic
Yeah.
sometimes. It can be the portal to some of the most healing connection. So, like most, especially men, most women as well, but like most men, if I could smell the risk that I was going to be shamed by someone around me, I would leave the room, or I'd put on my mask and really kind of harden up and just try and look like one of the boys, right?
Yeah.
But the more I'm like, well, if shame happens, I'll actually relax and feel it. Then
Mm.
I feel it. I try and taste this very bitter wine and see if I
Mm-hmm.
can bring my curiosity to somehow enjoy that. Now, what that
Yeah.
does, actually, rather than me always being in a race to feel a negative emotion and then turn that into something positive,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, through self-talk or breathing
Yeah.
or doing something active, I'd rather just sit in that and allow the feeling just to distill within me. I get a much purer depth of contact with myself and who I am. So I get to know myself in a deeper way. I
Mm-hmm.
get to let the negative feeling linger. Maybe it has a message for me. Like, what about
Yeah.
grief? If you feel a bit of grief, say a loved one dies, someone in your close family dies, and you feel grief, are you going to turn your grief into a positive emotion as soon as possible? You're stuck with the grief. You have to go all the way through that process if you're going to see what it can potentially turn into. If you feel
Mm-hmm.
a little grief and then you try and transform it, you're not actually going to go very deep into the experience of being a human being, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So that the beauty of all of these negative emotions
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that if you ride them into the very bottom, like the bottom of the ocean of the grief within you, the center of your shame,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the feeling is, if you actually ride it through to the bottom, it transmutes of its own accord. You don't need to do any transmuting yourself. If you stay present with emotion right to the very bottom, it changes itself. And what it changes into, I mean, this is my experience 1,000 times, and working with clients in this way with emotional work, is a feeling fully felt will always transform into a sublime quality, a quality of presence, an aspect of God, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So your deepest grief is going to transform into love, kind of surrender, but a love. Like, the fact that you grieve so deeply just shows that you love so much. And then, wow, because I've felt all this grief, it's also opened my heart in a really radiant way. If you can grieve the loss of a loved one and you grieve that fully, then it also tenderizes and prepares the heart so that you can love the next people in your life that come along in a much more human way.
Yeah.
So I maybe you can tell here, my highest value is to not judge not bracket the
Yeah.
emotions in terms of good or bad, but like, what is the entirety of my human experience, and can I live all of that very fully?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting because you're looking at emotions in a very neutral way, which means you're kind of like removing your like the survival bias on that I normally have on the emotions. But you used a very interesting word which I wanted to like take in deeper a little bit. You used a word called distill. Oh, like you're kind of like distilling the emotions and you're kind of like sitting with the purest form, right? So let's say you
Yeah.
have like the pure form of, let's say, grief, right? So what do
Mm.
you feel is like adulterating it? Like adulterated grief is like here. So like is just sitting with the adulterated grief just automatically distilling it, or is there something like what is the adulterated thing that is like adulterating the emotion, if that makes sense?
Oof. Yeah, I mean, you're asking really, really good questions. It takes an amount of skill in order to be with yourself, um, deeply and purely with your own emotions. It's, I think, if you are a beginner who's starting to dive out of your mind and into what's more in the body, it can take a lot of help to be able to get there. I mean, that's the role of a therapist. If you have like a somatically or an emotionally literate therapist, you can get this in
Yeah.
certain groups. You can get this in relationships. Like, if your partner, luckily for us men, like, women are usually a lot more emotionally attuned,
Yeah.
and they can be very helpful as a mirror. But what needs to happen is a recognition of, okay, there's an emotion that I'm not feeling, I can see that. So if you're if you're feeling grief, let's say, and you're like, oh no, I just want to go and play this video game, or go outside and drink this, or smoke that, or call up my buddy who's just like a fun guy. These are all classic ways of popping out of what you're feeling within. So what you do is you go into your body, you can set an intention, you can set your bell on a meditation app and just be like, I'm going to feel what's in my body for the next 12 minutes, 20 minutes, and breathe and feel. And so what you're looking to do is, I always invite my clients, if you're feeling something in your body, is it okay to feel that right now, just the way it is, without any attempt to fix it or change it? Can you just allow it to be? And pretty much all the time, they'll say, yeah, it's okay for a little while. I can be with that. And then I'll say, what if you just take a few breaths into that emotion? And what if you allow your top lip and your bottom lip just to purse, like your mouth falls apart a little bit, and you allow a little bit more, like a 10% more oxygen into your body and 10% more to exhale? What if you just allow that? Well, the questions that I'm asking are really priming the mind to focus very clearly on the emotion itself. And what it does to breathe into it, just if the emotion is compressed, it just gives it a bit more air, a bit more space, and it allows it to bloom and grow. So the emotion kind of blooms in your body, and it grows, and it starts to fill you up more and more. And that's what you're looking to do, allowing, rather than being this compressed, dense thing that's away and tamped down, you're just trying to let that thing breathe. And the emotional energy is kind of hormones in the energy that's like sparked off in the body, all of a sudden has space, it's allowed. And it can eventually, if it's allowed enough and your body is soft enough and you're still watching, you're still focusing, you're still breathing, that emotion just kind of grows until it fills you up. But by the time a single emotion is filling your whole body from head to toe, it doesn't take long until it changes into the next thing, the next layer, or just transmutes, evaporates.
I can kind of experientially relate, but the question I have in my mind is, so there is like a transformation that's happening, right? But it seems very paradoxical because you don't want the transformation to happen, but it seems like, because you're just accepting the way it is or whatever, But then the transformation is happening because you don't want it to transform. I think my question is, let's say you have like the adulterated grief, right? And then you have like the distilled grief, all right? Are they like the same thing, or are they actually different? Like,
well, okay, yeah. So there's a couple of things in your question. First of all, you're talking about the paradox of change. This is very well recognized across spirituality and different kind of embodiment and therapies, right? It's like as soon as you stop trying to change something, you accept it as it is. Like life is evolution, so things are just going to evolve of their own accord, and they usually evolve towards something more complex, profound, etc., etc. But maybe let's tidy up the metaphor. When I talk about distilled grief and undistilled grief, maybe that's not correct. It's more a purity, more a distillation actually of your awareness or your attention on the feeling itself. So rather than having, in my awareness is 50% with the emotion, but 50% with a lot of thoughts, as I start meditating and breathing and being with my emotion, then my awareness fuses. So it's like 90%, 95% awareness is focused on the emotion, and my thoughts just start to shrink to a little 5%. Right.
So it feels like there's like a dance between your thoughts, emotions, and the body things that you're trying to like harmonize in like a holistic way.
Yeah. And you're just seeing if you can remain at the level of sensation, remain with your awareness in your body as much as possible. And you don't have to be perfect. And you don't have to be, 0% in your head. There's often thoughts that will flutter. But that's the practice, being at the level of sensation.
One of the very common like terminology, I think even like in our Samarata course they do this, and I see it like happening again and again, which is like a visualization, right? You kind of like
Yeah.
visualize this thing. So like, okay, like what do you feel is like, or do you do visualization, or if you do, like, then how do you like exactly do it?
I
Because
have found, yeah, I have visualized at times in the past, and it
yeah,
has been very powerful also at times in the past.
yeah,
Yeah. It So I can share some the ways in which
yeah,
it's
yeah,
been powerful for me, for sure.
yeah, yeah,
The most important thing for me in visualization has been to get down to specifics. So I stumbled across this, and it worked very well with my I don't know, my mind, my constitution at this moment in my life. But I would write like the morning pages. I would
yeah.
write my visualization as a stream of consciousness with a lot of detail and explanation, almost like I was writing freeform a novel. Like, okay, I
Mm,
visualize this is happening, so in the future this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening. I see this, they're saying this, I feel this, blah blah blah, and go on for 3 pages into the most crazy minutia of what it is that I might want to visualize. And I'm not premeditating this with my mind. I just set the intention to create a compelling future, and just words are coming out. And I wrote pages and pages of this stuff, and a lot of it came true really, really quickly. And what really made that work was, the more I wrote, the more my body got filled up with a ecstasy,
uh,
vibrancy, bliss, passion, enthusiasm. So the things that I was looking to manifest or visualize, yeah, there was kind of sensory objects or physical objects in the external world that I wanted to experience, right? But actually
mhm.
in my body, just the act of writing, boom, lit the whole thing up. And so I also do some visualization meditations from time to time. And I have maybe 5 or 6 different archetypes that I will phase through. So the meditation I was doing maybe has 8 or 9 different stages, and I'd have to meditate on this shape and color and position in my body, this shape and color, these things, these phenomena, and layer in these different visualizations. So it can start off by using a sense of inner eye, right?
Yeah,
Not everybody can do this, but most people can close their eyes and think of, I don't know, a black dot or a diamond or like a blue line or something like that. You meditate on these things, you see them, but after a few breaths, just as I was speaking with the emotional stuff, as I kind of breathe into the things that I visualize around my body, after a time, my body kind of opens and erupts into a series of feeling states. And it's the
yeah,
feeling states that seem to be the real generator of this being
yeah.
powerful. Yeah.
So feelings, it seems to be like the fuel, almost like a fuel
Yeah.
source. Uh, so like, do you actually like visualize the feelings, or is like how does that work? Like how are you? Because I'm a very logical guy. If you haven't noticed.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
uh, so feelings are like whoop,
Yeah.
it's like clouds in the sky, like it's just coming and going, like uninvited guests. Um, but I think anyway, you have an answer to that, or it's like,
Sure. I mean, how does something turn from a visual into a feeling?
yeah, or
Um,
how, yeah,
Relaxation and curiosity. So
yeah,
I've known many people that say I don't feel much, or I struggle to access my feelings. Usually that's because like deep lifelong training and shaping, parents, culture, we all come from places really where the feeling world is not prime.
yeah,
Logic and academics and so on are a prize. So a lot of people are actually holding a lot of unconscious tension in their body, and it's the tension patterns that stop the flow of feelings. So you can do some exercises that slowly and subtly release the chronic holding of tension, and you practice again and again with your curiosity to feel the different sensations in your body again and again. And I mean, when I started doing embodiment work, it was every single day for 6 months, 1-2 hours of different exercises, sometimes with people, sometimes alone and moving. After 5-6 months, I started to have some tremendous breakthroughs. Not in a couple of weeks, not
Yeah,
just
yeah.
in a couple of months. It took a while to add up. But generally, once I'd opened up, let's say, my feeling apparatus, and what I identified with in the daily course of my life was less my thoughts and more my feeling emotional world, then all kinds of amazing stuff happened. But that is a massive, it's a drop in depth when a person stops rattling around as this tangle of inner criticism and judgments and kind of compensation strategies. Oh my God, I don't want this to happen, so I have to do this, and transform myself into this
Yeah.
person, and self-improvement and self-help, like that whole, once we kind of see that's a level of constructs, that's a level of real busy mind activity. Once you start to see that for what it is, and then give more primacy to just the simple feeling state in your body. I feel happy, I feel heat in my shoulders, I feel, full in my belly, I feel cold in my feet. Once this depth of reality becomes actually more interesting to you than the thought thing, it's a shift in who you are and how you identify as a human being. So that's massive. So to answer your question, it's like, this is an evolution, and in my work I call it from parts to process. It's like the process, and like one of your friends is going through this evolution. If you ask him, how are you doing today? And then they're like, they close their eyes and feel into their body. Well, Pram, thank you for asking. I feel, part of me is feeling like happy and light. Part of me feels like this heavy fogginess. I don't know if you ever met some of the people that did a couple of workshops, and you ask them how they are, and then for 10 minutes they're discerning their emotional experience. It gets very, well, it's a categorical shift in the experience of being.
Definitely. It's funny because I actually interviewed a lawyer, right? He's like an ex-lawyer. He did like this prison projects, and his entire thing is I can calm down an angry person in less than 30 seconds. And he works with like max security inmates, right? And his entire message, and he like walked away from, he's like a very successful lawyer as well. He walked away like from like $10 million or something. It's like, nah, I feel like I've never helped anyone. He said in his 20 years career, he felt like he only helped 4 people. So he left law, then started going to like prisons to like teach this concept which he calls labeling, where you're just kind of like labeling emotions. And he says that when you're talking to someone, and he says that when a person is having that emotional stuff, his prefrontal cortex kind of like shuts down, so the person is not able to process it. So when you're just, even if I'm labeling for them, or you're feeling frustrated, or you're anxious, or you're scared, or you're feeling ashamed, it's kind of like you're lending your prefrontal cortex to them, and it helps them process it better. So me and my friend, I'm saying this because me and my friend, we just do that. So I tell him, I'm like, pitching, and he's like, oh, you're frustrated, or you're angry, you felt disrespected. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm feeling disrespected, but it kind of feels good too. Now that I know that I feel disrespected, it's like, um, so this is why I love your work, because there are many channels which tackle, masculine, grow yourself, become like the alpha or the sigma, or like, I don't know, gamma or whatever, male or something like that.
Delta
And it's
male, that's what we're
delta
going
male.
for now.
Yeah, it's like just like climb up. And all of them are in a certain way outcome driven, right? But with yours, it has a very artistic touch. You know what it means? It feels like you're not doing it. It feels like you're writing a novel, and you're kind of like create like this, like a Michelangelo sculpting a sculpture. That's the feeling I get, which I feel is like really unique to you. I get some feeling from even Zan as well, but I think with you it's like very, very intentional. I am like kind of like going this artistic route. Like, why is that? Why not stick to like the, you know, traditional, just do this, 1, 2, 3, six-pack shortcuts,
Yeah.
get laid in 4 easy steps. Like, why not?
Well, I like the way that you said that and spoke the question. I feel like you took over my neocortex there and spoke
No.
some things as I feel them to be true. Why? I mean, I I guess I do have an outcome in a way. My outcome is to drop in depth. And I think there are deeper layers to the human condition, right? Like
Yeah.
when we spoke before, you were like, I want to talk about the self, and well, the self can mean non-dual existence,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And if you're in a depth of non-duality, there is no, let's say,
Yeah.
outcome in the physical world that really means anything
Yeah.
significant. Everything is significant, nothing is significant,
Yeah.
everything is a play. So I think once you've had a few tastes of really dropping into depth and seeing life from a deeper perspective, you, or me, what I've done is look on a lot of human activity with folly, as folly.
What does that mean,
And I
folly?
folly, kind of like a waste of time
Oh,
in a
okay.
way.
Okay.
Not entirely. It is good if you're single, you haven't got a girlfriend, you haven't got a boyfriend, there are some real skills that you can learn that are going to make a difference, right?
Yeah.
And of course, if I 10x my income this year, my life will have more possibilities. It's good. I'm a yes to that kind of stuff and getting some real world skills for sure. But the level of attachment that a lot of people have to their self-improvement usually is based on something much deeper, like I'm not really going to be worthy unless I have this kind of income,
Yeah.
unless I can walk into a classy party and someone asks me what I do and what my
Yeah.
income is, how many followers I've got or whatever, and I can give this really flash answer, then I'll feel good. But if I don't actually have that, I'm going to feel somehow less than, inconsequential, unworthy. Or like with the body, guys want to be
Yeah.
jacked, or yeah,
Yeah.
with dating, people want a really high body count or whatever it is. It's a lot of that stuff comes from a deep insecurity, and so people drive themselves to amazing lengths to achieve physical external things in the world, but they don't actually feel a deep satisfaction deep within, right? Usually there's been a
Feels hollow.
wounded thing that happens at school or in the family or in the teenage years. And
Yeah.
so their entire activity as an adult is like, how can I now compensate for that pain so I won't have to feel it again?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Definitely.
I mean, I chased a lot of things in the outside world, but once I looked actually at the psychology, the psychodynamics of what motivated me to those things, I felt a freedom. I didn't have to do them anymore. And actually, when I think the most significant things in life really are human connection, how we feel in terms of our connection with ourselves, and how we feel in how deeply we can love other people. And when it comes to love, sure. Say you write me a check for $1 million, there's going to be a big eruption of love and spontaneity and
Yeah.
joy in my household, right? My girlfriend would be very happy about that. But my
Yeah.
actual ability to be a human being and love her and then receive her love is not contingent on how much money I've got in my bank account or anything like that, or how what my abs are like, or
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing. It seems like that, but it's not actually true. So I've had enough experiences of love, fundamental connection, for which I didn't need any of these crazy wild achievements. And it just proved to me actually that depth, and like I said to you, kind of feeling and knowing very intimately the full scale of really the human condition, emotionally, spiritually,
Yeah.
that's really enough. And out of that material, I can create the most compelling and beautiful relationships I could ever hope to have. I can create anything in the world of art that is mine to create. I can make out of my experience, and that makes me incredibly rich.
Yeah.
And I think in a particular way, depending on your personal taste, it makes me beautiful as well. I
Yeah. Yeah.
know what my
Definitely.
own beauty is because I know my own truth. I feel a fundamental goodness in me, and that sets me up for life in a very different way. So if I want to go and compete and have a high paid job, then I can do that from a very powerful basis because I really know what I'm packing deep down.
Yeah.
Then when I look at people in high paid jobs like your lawyer friend, it's like, oh, actually,
Yeah.
you've got all the status in the world, but your inner sense of satisfaction is really low. And then I
Yeah.
start speaking to people who have been chasing in, external things their whole life, and there is often there's a fear in the eyes, or there is a gaping hole, or there's a sense that they've reached a glass ceiling of meaning. Wow, I have this,
Yeah.
I have that, but I can't quite really feel a deep sense of meaning, or the itch of ultimate significance, the questions of ultimate concern. I don't know how to
Yeah.
scratch that itch. And it's
Other than art. So you feel like art is like giving you almost like a vessel to express, or almost like a medium, so where people can connect a deeper part of themselves rather than a superficial part of themselves, is what you're trying to say.
I came to art really, really late. So as a teenager, I wasn't
Yeah.
particularly skilled with art, although I really loved music. And my teacher said, you shouldn't do art, like choose a different subject. It's not for you. Like, saw my stick paintings and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
um
I don't mean
and I
art
never
like, like drawing or something, like even like the way you speak or the way you structure or something like that. You could consider that as artistic, right?
I never considered myself artistic in any way, but the more I started to feel all of my emotions without trying to change them very quickly into something positive, but
Yeah.
I allowed the depth, and I allowed the pain, and I allowed the suffering and the difficulty, it gave me access to all my emotions. And then it gave me access to a lot of kind of different sublime qualities of experience. So when I started to write, having known all of that, I would look at my writing and be like, damn, there's like some flow in this. There's some fun. It moves. And the more I went into my own depths, cinema,
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of like action Hollywood cinema, and then there's
Yeah.
like really slow French films that people are like,
Yeah.
why would I watch that, like weird art house stuff? Well, a lot of the weird art house stuff started touching me in really deep places. As I'm like, wow, I get that. It demands a quality of attention, but the emotional and the philosophical payoff is a lot richer if you watch something slow and moving, for example.
You
And
recommended a
so,
movie like that. Yeah. Like an old movie where, like, I don't know, I don't even know. It was like a trippy movie, is what I remember.
okay,
Yeah.
I got a lot of movie recommendations, but art, I see very occasionally, I see a piece of art, hear some music, watch a film, read something, and it hits me so strongly that I can't think about anything else for the next few days. It's like I'm seduced. Like I watch a
Mm.
movie and I'm like, I can't believe what I just saw. Why has this made me feel so many emotions? Why am I thinking about this? Why is it in my dreams? When I try and create something, it's there. The image in the center of that art has shaken me in a really profound way. And um I mean, in terms of self-knowledge, it just
Interesting.
asks so many questions. Yeah.
So yeah, so basically you're saying that anything artistic has like a almost like a holistic response. Like your emotions are responding, your body is responding, even your mind is responding, right?
Yeah, I mean, your subconscious is
It's
responding.
a subconscious, yeah. But I think
So
with like
that,
the logical ones, the six-pack shortcuts, those things aren't getting triggered. It's very like superficial, you might say. I just want to like get it done, like boom, boom.
yeah, I mean, if you're making art to appeal to someone's logical nature, you might as well just write a handbook, go and read some nonfiction and learn some new skills. But
Yeah,
like good art, I think either hits me at a sublime level, which I watch movies, I've walked into like some art exhibitions, especially
mm.
when there's like really big paintings or like installation
Yeah, yeah,
art. And I stand there, and if I breathe and actually, if I go into like a meditation state while I'm in the museum, rather than just look and try and figure everything out, I'm like, okay, I'll let this thing hit me and go into a meditation. How do I meditate? I just breathe and relax and just allow the outside to hit me. What do I feel?
yeah,
Sometimes it can blow me away. So you can have a deep state of presence, a deep state of meditation, watching or beholding something. Or I love the unconscious stuff, like some of these directors, like David Lynch, for example, if
mm.
you've watched,
Crazy. Yeah, I've watched many
yeah,
of his
like a
films. Yeah,
Mulholland Drive or Blue Velvet or something like that.
yeah,
There's a hell of a lot of deep unconscious symbolism which is woven into his characters and so on. And people watch a David Lynch and say, that doesn't make sense. You know, what is all this crazy stuff? But yet a lot of people see these films and think of them for years. Like, they don't forget them or dream about them, or the characters remain. And often it's because aspects of your shadow and your subconscious that you haven't discovered yet, you've seen up there on the silver screen. And it's like art gives you a premonition of who you discover that you are.
Damn.
A few years down the line when you're finally ready for it.
Yeah, and that's something only art can do, right? Because you're like, your heart is resonating to it in a certain way, because in a certain future it is true, you know, like, that's crazy. Okay, I think one final question I have, which is kind of
we got there on art. I was jabbering around a little bit, but you helped me get to the thing like that.
No, but that is like really insightful. It just blew my mind, actually, because I consider myself artistic as well, because I was kind of like steering towards the same direction as you are, because I was thinking, what the fuck am I doing? You know, creating a YouTube channel. Okay, guys, so, you know, feel into the emotions, you know, whatever stuff like this. But then I thought there's something missing from it, and it's not artistic enough. Because for me in my life, I want to like understand suffering and how can you develop a better relationship with suffering. And I realized that whenever I'm anxious, I'm not like sitting and watching videos on how to get rid of anxiety. You know, my first reaction is like to read a comic or to read a film or something like that, or listen to like a music, right? And through that, I kind of like connect with the shadow, like you said. And then that heals you to a certain level where then your mind activates, and then you can like do all the seeking and all that stuff. But it's very, very interesting what you just said, because I never understood why I'm supposed to do art, like, you know, but the last statement was really impactful. That was crazy, because it's kind of like it's like a preview almost. It's giving you like a existential preview of who you
but you're not ready to figure it out yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a
you
glimpse,
have to get some more life experience, and then it integrates. Damn, now I know. So just a quick question for you, like what's moved you in art lately? Is there something that really has beguiled you or got your imagination active?
So I watched like a lot of Japanese animations. So it's called anime. And there's like this 1997 anime called Evangelion, okay? That's like a cult following. But in that anime, they kind of like artistically show like this characters going through like a depression. I was like very sad so when watching it. And it resonated, or it like resonated me on like such a deep level. I thought to myself at that point, damn, if I could inspire myself to like at this level, I would be happy at that point. I think at that point I made it. You know what I mean? If I die the next day, I'm like fine. So I was like, I want to create something that hits me like how this medium hit me, you know? Like, but I was like just sitting with that, but I didn't quite know what I'm supposed to do or something. But I have like one final question, if you don't mind.
What a terrible thing! And then you realize that you have to be an artist too and pass that on, and the work and the challenge of that. Yeah, okay.
It's like a
speaking to a brother in that case.
No, art is it. I was thinking, should I like become like a video editor? You know, I'm like editing for like Soren, you know, Zanperion and stuff like that. So I was like thinking, oh, should I like become like a like After Effects guy, you know, like creating cool shit. But then I like watch cool videos. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't speak to me, you know. Then I'm like, you know, I was just kind of like going through what would I like ideally. But then you have like a lot of limiting beliefs. At least for me, it's like there are so many people at my age. They're like godlike. Anything I try to like pick, like guitar or like, you know, art or something, like kids drawing, like, you know, they have been like alive for like 1,000 years or something. You know what I mean?
Well, if I can say something to this, and this maybe ties the conversation together, the beautiful thing, or when I look at things being created today, especially young people coming out of film school or with an education in the arts, there's a lot of people that are technically very good, like you said, kind of wizards and so on. But the very difficult thing at the center of art is to write the thing in the first place. And to be like to write or conceive of what the art is going to be in the first place is the hardest thing. And that, I think, means that you have to dive into the well of your own emotions,
Yeah,
subconscious, depth of your human condition. If you go down to like ground zero, like the depths of shame, grief, love, heartbreak, being afraid in a
true, true.
bizarre foreign country, whatever it is, you've got prime material to then turn into art. And I think we're
Exactly.
struggling for people who have been that deep in themselves, that they can reclaim these deep gifts from the well and then turn them into the art. We've got a lot
Yeah,
of skilled magicians that haven't gone that deep. So the
yeah,
emotional work and everything about it is and that's why so many of the great artists, they study the occult, they go into mystic traditions,
yeah,
they go into Freud and Jung
yeah.
and try and scrape what they can out of the bottom of the
No,
human condition.
yeah, I think we are just like going about the process in an opposite way. I think they become good at drawing something that people like first and then kind of like discover their emotions and stuff like that. But we
Yeah,
are like discovering our emotions and like, I have like artistic expressions. So I have like one last question if you don't mind, but or are
we'll
we
do it
running
quick.
short on
Yeah,
time?
yeah, very
So
very short, but let's take it in 1 minute.
damn, it's not a very short question. But my question was, it's like a
Say it anyway. We'll leave it as a
yeah.
teaser maybe for something
So
else.
maybe a part two, guys. No. So my question is, I love whatever you're teaching, right? But the problem I find is there's a quality of investigation that a person has to willingly pursue, right?
Yeah,
Like your messages, right? When I kind of like use it, okay, this person has faced the challenge in this particular way, and I have a very unique challenge in front of me. So how can I kind of, when I think of it like that, I find your stuff incredibly helpful. But when I see like what like other people do, they just want like to apply what you're saying and then kind of like put it, cut, copy, and paste in their life, and they want it to work. And I feel there's a quality of investigation that is lacking. I don't know, or something like that. So how do you feel like a person can cultivate that? Like whatever you say might be fancy, I might have like the aha moment, right? But for something to actually impact my life, there's like a journey I have to willingly kind of like engage in. Like
yeah,
how is that something that's natural? Because I kind of like do it naturally. So, but I don't know if someone can do it
yeah.
intentionally or
I have to give a quick fire answer to this. Some people are really inquire deep. They take something and they want to go really deep into it. A lot of
yeah.
people are like, they need results fast and they don't want to feel the pain and the stretch of having to engage in a difficult work. They want to be able to get the result, execute the thing, be done, and get on with their lives. And then some people are in the middle and they need a bit of training. But I think it is difficult just to say, look, I've got a world of skills and perspectives and things that you can practice and follow, but you have to take it on for yourself and engage over the long term, and you're going to find incredible mysteries through doing that. Not a lot of people have the openness for that. And it's not just because we live in this kind of self-optimizing world. We need to optimize ourselves and our days all the time. So
Yeah.
productivity and everything. I think it's always been the case. And if you're teaching something or guiding people into a deep experience, like if you're a mystic teacher or something like that
Yeah.
from the past, when they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
Well,
Teach.
if you're a
Yeah.
teacher, you're like, hey, I'm a teacher, but where are the bloody students, right? What is the experience of the teacher who's
Yeah.
floating through life looking for a student? I think throughout all of history, there's been these teachers willing to pass on what they've got, and they look around and they're like, wow, people are really into booze and money
Yeah.
and I don't know, easy women, easy men, or whatever it is. And the spark of the person who is curious to learn about deep things is sacred. It's precious. It's rare. I think it always has been. It can be learned, but you need to have a longing, and I think that's very hard to really maybe engender if you don't have it already. There has to be a part of you that's just like, I want to know something that's more mysterious than the conventional surroundings that I live in. And I'm going to hunt that down, even though at first it might not further my career or further my status and things like that. a lot of people are really, the curiosity and their hunger is fenced in by career, status, getting the girl, being
Yeah.
the guy, whatever the thing is. Yeah.
That,
So
thank you.
I wish I knew how I could spark that more in people. And again, I think actually art, more than
Yeah.
self-development content, is a way that you can evoke it or ignite in people a hunger to do something crazy and wild.
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I, but I can kind of like intuit that art has like some answer to it, or at least it's like the stepping stone to like the whatever the future has. Definitely,
Yeah.
it does feel like. Yes.
Prem, this was a cool podcast. I
Yeah.
love your questions. I love your listening. I totally felt the vibe with you. Thank you.
Yeah. I know you have to go.
Um,
Thank you so much. Please, guys, check out his YouTube channel if you like his stuff. He has like in-depth videos, like 30, 20 minutes, like just talking deep stuff like this. Really helpful. Thank you so much for your time, Jordan. I know you have to go. Thank you so much.
yeah. Pleasure. We'll speak
Yeah.
again. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye. Yeah.